are recording.
Other harvest development groups do good, better luncheons. We're very fortunate today to have a group that I really enjoy working with. They're the Boulder Company, Boulder as in Bolder, to be bolder in your life. And we're joined today with the founders of the company, Jenny Drescher, and Ellen Feldman Ornato. And I've been very fortunate to be able to participate in some of the programs that the Boulder Company puts together. They're really an active learning and development firm. And today they're going to be talking about intention and commitment. But they do programs on emotional intelligence that I've participated in. And really, I found that it helps me as I look to collaborate with my team or with clients. They really do a great job of talking about how to identify how you learn and act, and then how you might evaluate how teammates learn and act, and how clients might learn and act. And they just do fantastic stuff. They've got a background in improv and do work in that area as well. Harvest has teamed up with the Boulder Company before in numerous activities, and we really enjoy being with them and see them as great contributors to the nonprofit community. They've worked with AARP, the Humane Society of Connecticut, Jewish Federations, and other types of nonprofits, hundreds of nonprofits, to help us as nonprofit staff members understand how to work together, how to meet our mission, how to work with volunteers, how to get them involved. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So welcome, Jenny and Ellen.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't you tell me a little bit about kind of the Boulder Company, what your mission is, and how you work with staff, and then we'll get into some of the discussion more on intention and commitment.
Great. So Boulder Company we're a Hartford-based company. We're actually technically in West Hartford, but Hartford-based, and we have clients all over the country. Our mission is to help people become bolder versions of themselves. So in terms of the way they listen to each other, the way they engage in their workplaces, the way they step up into positions of leadership and take responsibility and ownership, not only for their own behavior, but for the outcomes of their teams. And also to own and recognize the role that they play in either furthering those goals or being a damper on them. And so what we've seen is during this time particularly, we have so many clients who are in this middle space. Jenny and I like to talk about, a bridge. Like we're sort of in the middle of the bridge right now. You're at that high point, and people are starting to look at how do we re-enter the workspace together. And we think that there's a unique opportunity right now to intentionally recreate your team and recreate the ways you communicate with each other so that you can go back into whatever's next for you in a way that's more cohesive and more supportive and recognizes the needs of the people that you have on your team and values them in the now, right? So I would say that that's where we're positioned right now. We do all sorts of work that we can talk about later on, or people can just check out our website.
Great. And Jenny, I know your team has been putting together programs currently for different types of clients. Can you tell a little bit about what you've been working with some of the nonprofits that you've engaged with in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks?
Yeah, we've been doing our best to try and help folks to navigate this weird unknown space that everybody's in, where they're going, okay, what am I supposed to do next? I don't really know what I'm supposed to do next, because I don't have a sense of where my foot should go. Yeah, right? Because sure. The ground has risen up beneath us and then crumbled, and now we're all, we've been wobbling around on the ground for a while, but slowly putting it back together. So all kinds of metaphors. You'll always get mixed metaphors with Boulder Company. That's how
we promise. Mixed metaphors are one of our specialties
all day long. But really, it seems like when the whole COVID situation happened, everything got tossed in the air and has now landed again. People have been adjusting to, okay, It's not what it was, but we don't yet know where we're going. So what is the next tiny incremental step? So what we've been doing with a lot of our both nonprofit and for-profit organizations and municipalities that we work with has been saying, okay, what are the skills that are going to shore up your ability to navigate this?
Mm-hmm.
Because what's happening is that when people are uncertain or they are afraid, they're reacting and acting from that place. Mm-hmm. Ambiguity and uncertainty is so uncomfortable. We as humans are terrible at it. Our little lizard brain, literally the part of our brain that thinks that we're going to be eaten by a saber tooth, is getting activated round the clock, right? Whether it's the news cycle or, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with my teen? Or, oh my gosh, are we going to, there's so many points of where we're getting stimulated into a fear space. The problem with that is that drains, literally from a brain perspective, that drains the blood out of your prefrontal cortex, which is where executive function and high level thinking and creativity and language and strategy live. So we've been talking with a lot of our clients about, let's calm down, take a breath, and literally take a breath and find our way from a place that is grounded, where we can feel like we can, let's regain our sense of security and safety. Mm-hmm. Because the truth is that, yes, the economy is going to be completely different. Yes, there will be a lot of parts of our society and our culture that are going to be different. They're going to look different, feel different. We're going to experience them differently. But we've also, as a species, we've survived this before. We have figured it out. We are resilient critters. So the opportunity to be inventive is also part of what's in front of us. It's not just about, departing from what was. It's about being curious and innovative to figure out, oh, okay, well, what might I want to be doing next? Because if we stay in that fear space, we can't solve anything. Nothing.
I was on a call yesterday, Scott, and this was with a women's leadership group for the Middlesex Chamber. And somebody said, I don't know how to switch my brain from survive to thrive. Like I'm living with so much ambiguity and fear that it's really hard for me to focus on what's next for me and my team, because I'm very stuck in right now and, taking care of my kids and my mom and right. And so the first thing that we teach is to recognize that that's the question that's going on in your brain, that your brain is in survival mode, that you're in survival mode, right? And then how do you make a conscious choice to focus more on what is working, what you do have control over, what are the resources you do available to you? And sometimes it's just a call with a friend to have a primal scream or a quarantining at 5 o'clock to say, this just stinks, right? But if we stay in our heads and we stay in our homes and we stay in our fear, the creativity that's possible is not going to emerge. Mm. So it creates a unique opportunity right now for leaders within organizations to recognize and acknowledge the role that fear is playing in their own communication, in the way that they're leading their teams, and to seek resources, not just us, but other resources, to say, how do I reorient the way that I'm talking with people, the things that I'm thinking about, the way I'm reading articles, to start thinking about opportunity, right? Because we're a small business. We were stopped cold. Probably 85–90% of our business was planned to be in front of people and interacting in groups of 15 to 25 people, teaching emotional intelligence and DISC and all of the other things that we teach. That stopped cold. Our pipeline went. Right. Okay, so we licked our wounds for a half a minute and then said, how do we take the way that we teach and the content that we teach and figure out how to bring it into this virtual space, right? Right. Which caused us to, Jenny went and took an in-depth program on how to run Zoom meetings, right? We have looked into how do we take the applied improvisation tools that we were using in person and repurpose those into the virtual space, and what does it look like from a timing perspective? So we've taken everything that we used to do and created it on a different platform. So when we reopen our doors, we have both to offer now,
Excellent. Yeah.
right? If we were sitting back and saying, well, we just have to wait until our clients are ready to put us in rooms in their buildings again, we'd be out of business, right? Because we wouldn't really have a business. We can't count on maybe, right? Because even when things open up, the chance that we're going to be able to be in person with people, that, you know, it's going to take time to plan meetings and drop pins in the future and get on people's calendars. But we can do webinars every day with people like you and get information out and be training and facilitating and creating and inspiring people to laugh and connect more, because
Well,
we all
you
need
know,
that.
you just made me think of something, Ellen, which is, so one of the first things, and this would be a point I would share with your audience about just like to try this at home. So as she mentioned, and as you mentioned, Scott, we use a lot of improvisation in our work. So for people who may not know what improvisation is, it's taking the tools that work in improvised theater or improvised music and repurposing them into real life. Because the truth is that we improvise every day. Nobody's born with a script. And life is always a moment of stepping on stage, not knowing what's going to happen. So the skills that we borrow from improvisation include listening really, really well so that you can find out what's going on around you, using situational awareness. So in theater, we do that on the stage, but guess what? We do that in business meetings too, don't we?
Sure.
If we are trying to put an idea out to the world, then we have to, there's a risk involved in that. It feels risky. It feels like, ooh, I'm putting my little old heart out on the world. And so maybe and I might fail. So the skills of improvisation support us in being able to manage our relationship, improve our relationship to risk and failure. And so what we realized when this all was coming upon us with COVID, we said, we've been practicing this for years already, so let's help other people do it too. Right?
We've been in the gym.
Yeah, it is the gym. Our friend Kat Coppett from Mopco Theater, a great colleague of ours, she always refers to improv as the gym, and we agree with her. So we're actually running a program where we're rolling out a weekly jam. So your participants are happy. Come join us. We're going to play. We're going to run a weekly jam on how to adapt, how to do change, how to flex, how to navigate really hard emotions like anger and fear, right? And I mean, part of the reason I put this goofy thing here behind me is around being intentional and adapting and expanding and having fun. Sandra from Harvest made a great comment when we were speaking last week. She said, people need to start laughing again. And she's right. We all can take, like, laughter is going to be one of the things that's going to help us pivot and reinvent where we're going next. It's absolutely critical. So I would say to teams that are out there where you're really hurting, find a way to make some light in the dark, because your team will thank you for it. And it's a critical leadership skill. Finding light in the dark is essential.
Right. Every Friday at our team meetings, we do a huddle every day. And so for our Friday huddles as a team, Sandra picks out some sort of virtual game we can play for about 10 minutes. And it is a nice way to bond and just because when we're physically in the office, we see each other all the time. We just do that unconsciously. We chat, we get to learn about each other. But while we're on these timed Zoom meetings or whenever they are, it's hard to do that. So it's really nice that we take that opportunity to kind of break down that walls and get silly.
Well, and you're doing it intentionally, Scott, right? Yep. Which is part of what's been coming up for a lot of our clients, especially in the not-for-profit sector, where the upheaval can leave us feeling a bit like a dinghy on a swell, right? You can tell I live we live in the coastal area because I'm making nautical references here. So your listeners in Chicago are going, wait, what? Although they've got a big lake.
They've got the big lake.
But they've got the big lake, so they know about swells. But I mean, that's the image that's often coming to me, is this whole, this dinghy that's sort of getting tossed about on the waves because we feel like we have no control. And how do we find a rudder? How do we find an engine to move forward? the reality is that we as humans are equipped to be able to do this if we are committed and intentional about it, and we say, I'm going to choose how I'm walking through this. I'm going to be mindful instead of allowing myself to just be the victim of circumstance.
And the other piece of this that's so key, and Jenny mentioned brain science before, right? That our brains, that we literally drain our brain of the ability to be creative when we get into fear. Well, the thing that happens when we laugh and connect with each other is our body produces endorphins, happy chemicals that make us more creative. We feel better. We have more energy. We want to connect with people in a way that's meaningful, which is different than some of the other brain chemicals that you get flowing around your body, which are cortisol and adrenaline, which are the fear chemicals. You do that long enough, you wind up with heart disease and all those other things. That's not what we want. But we need to recognize that there has to be a balance. And so part of what we talk about is breathing, literally learning how to do square breathing, taking, putting the calm or insight timer on your phone and intentionally taking time to slow your breathing down, notice your breath, all of that, make decisions from that place instead of from the highly adrenalized state. And also to choose to connect to each other, but more intentionally for the leaders out there to connect to their teams in a way that's lighter. You can take on serious things and be a little lighter intentionally, because when they pick up on those cues from you. If you're crashing into a meeting and we use this analogy all the time. We used to we'd come into a meeting and there was a meeting before the meeting. We'd hug, we'd shake hands, we'd laugh, we'd catch up on what was happening in our lives. We talked about the weather, whatever it was. We had a space to connect to each other energetically as people before we started the meeting. Now the faces pop up and somebody's like, okay, let's get going. Right. It's like, wait a minute, who's in the room? How's everybody doing today? Right? And so we're teaching things as simple as, 2 thumbs up, I'm feeling great. And if you get a lot of people doing this, you might want to pause and check in and say, what's going on? How can I help you? What do you need? Right? Sure. Our friend Avi from We Care Computers in West Hartford, he's doing a podcast every day. One of his podcasts was, I'm calling all my clients and just saying, what do you need? Can I help?
Yep.
Right? It's not what can I sell you or do you need a new computer? It's what do you need? Right? Because all of the nonprofits are in the space of serving humanity. And we have to bring humanity to the humans. Right? First and foremost, the humans that work with and for us, so that they can be who they need to be to serve our clients.
Right. So let me ask a quick question about volunteers. I know you do work with nonprofits who have volunteers. Mm-hmm. So what are some good points as we think about our volunteers? How could we be communicating to them right now? How could we be engaging with them? What are some thoughts?
Well, intentional comes to mind for me. We were on a podcast with a bunch of dentists the other day and said, are you in touch with your patients, letting them know that you have their health and well-being in mind and that you are planning for them to come back to you? It's the same thing with your volunteers. Tell them what you can. People who know what you need will give you that. My daughter works at a zoo and they have an Amazon wish list right on every Instagram post, because they don't have money coming through the gate right now and they still need things for their critters. And giving people a way to help, even if they can't come in and actively volunteer at one of your events, is a great way for people to stay connected to your organization. I know Hartford Stage just finished an auction last night and somebody outbid me on something I really wanted in the last minute of that thing. But, I was actively involved for a whole week in this auction and checking back and they were putting things up. Did you know this about Hartford State? So organizations out there have an opportunity to reach people in their homes. Everybody's home, but in a way that's meaningful for them. Go ahead, Jenny. Sorry.
Well, when we're talking just then, I was thinking about one of the things that we've seen continually keeping volunteers engaged across multiple organizations. So there's a we've seen this at AARP. We've seen this at a group called Intercity Capital Connections, which is a nationwide organization. They're a not-for-profit that helps to grow small businesses in urban areas. So they both of those groups depend on a lot of volunteerism to drive their mission. And one of the things that I think they've both done well throughout this process, and I'd say they've amped it up a bit, is to connect with their volunteers and also continually to be poking the bear around why they matter. What is the role of that organization in that volunteer's life? Right? People don't volunteer because they don't care about a cause, or they don't care about, like, so keeping your volunteers connected to the WIFM, the what's in it for me, right? Keeping that would be a place where I would definitely be reaching out to my volunteer army to say, hey, you know what? We know that you probably miss us as much as we miss you, and jump on this call and let's start talking about why we care so much about XYZ thing. And let's have some fun. Let's ideate about what might become available here. What is the positive? What we're cultivating, what we're calling positive opportunism. So put your people on a call. Put your local volunteer army on a call and say, let's have some fun. Let's do some ideating about positive opportunism for what could come out of this. And one of the things we've seen is that in our improv world, the theaters are really hurting. They're in danger. There have been a couple of high-profile theaters across the country that have shuttered because they were already in high-rent districts in the first place, and they depend on every single penny that comes through. And so you get the news across the wire that says, sorry, we can't do it.
Moving, closing, done.
Moving, closing, done. And I'm confident that those places will reopen down the road because those are people that are committed to that art. They're committed to what they're creating. So even though they're shutting their doors for now, they're staying in conversations with each other and with their community and saying, we're shuttering for now. We're excited to reopen in 6 months once we've kind of reinvented what we need to do. Oh, and by the way, catch our online classes here. So they're still doing things to keep each other engaged. The Magnet Theater out of New York, for example, they're running a slew of classes and jams and viewing parties and figuring it out. And I think other arts organizations can do the same thing. And I think plenty of other organizations that have volunteer armies that they want to stay engaged. There's no shortage of ways to engage those people. We can help you with that, by the way.
Well, and things like doing a Facebook Live. Most of your organizations, I'm sure, have Facebook pages. It doesn't take a lot to turn a camera on and say, hey, we're here today to answer questions that you might have about let's talk about what's happening in the world. Let's talk about what's happening in the organization. Let me show you some pictures from our latest blah, blah, blah. Remind people why they love the organization, right? And it's the frequency of connection, right? Not just holding your breath and hoping they come back. It's also an opportunity in this pause. I know I've volunteered for a lot of different organizations over the years, and I have rarely felt that they had a good handle on all of my skills. Like they needed me for a thing. Right. And like along the way, like I mentioned to somebody the other day, oh yeah, I used to work in urban planning and economic development. She went, how do I not know that about you? It was one of our municipal clients. I'm like, oh, we didn't talk about it. And she's like, oh, so we could talk about this too. I'm like, yeah. So I think it's an opportunity to think about who you have and maybe ask them, what are the skills that you have that you haven't shared with us? What hidden talents do you have? What have you not been able to try out that you would like to try out within our organization and have people tell you, when we come back together, I'd really like to try this. And it might not be everybody, right? But it could be, you could wind up getting resources from people because the more engaged they are, the more they contribute. And the more they bring their friends in and enroll them in contributing and coming to events and things like that.
Yeah, digging deeper with people is such a powerful way to build capacity inside your volunteer army. It's astounding to me how often we've seen people say, will you just come in and check people off at the door at our event?
Right.
Right. Really, you ran your own PR and marketing agency for 20 years, but just check people off on the list.
And in fairness, that person might have said, "That's all I want to do. I really don't want to do all this other stuff."
That's true. Yeah.
But the point is that so often they don't ask.
Right.
They're not asked, even though the organization knows that this is something they're capable of. They're like, "Oh, we have staff that does that." Right.
Right.
So.
And there are great tools out there on how to evaluate, the matrices and how to evaluate board skills and and volunteer skills, and and yeah, I think that's a great activity to be doing right now. I think
And
that's a great
honestly, if
solution.
they have time and their staff is underworked or doesn't have enough work to do, have them make personal phone calls and connect with their volunteers.
Right.
Folks are lonely. Folks are home and lonely. I mean, we had a 5:15 call the other day with one of our key clients. After hours, we were all just kicking back with a glass of wine, talking with each other about work and life, right?
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that opportunity was not there before now.
Right.
Right? We're all sitting there in our sweats drinking a glass of wine and talking about the world and about what the work that we do with her. So we have a unique opportunity right now also to connect more fully and to use our staff in different ways too. Like
Right.
take your more personable, heartfelt folks and put them on the phone with your key volunteers. Right? Have them fall in love with the people that work for you as well.
That's great. That's great. Now, I know, I took this class with you on emotional intelligence, and, I really learned a lot about myself, but I also learned a lot about working with my work team. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are some activities that we could be doing right now to get to know how coworkers thrive? How what are skills maybe that they need to build? What are best ways to communicate with them? What are some insights you have in that area?
So I think, again, if we're looking at this from the lens of being intentional, Ellen mentioned before, having people really arrive and check in at meetings. There are a number of ways you can do that, and it's a great way to strengthen the connection that you have with people and also find out more about what they need or what's going on for them inside their own home. So there's actually a simple exercise that we'll teach you right now.
Okay,
so,
great.
So look around your environment and pick an item in your nearby environment and tell me show me what it is. In this case, I'll just model this. Like, so this is a rock I happen to have on my desk.
Yep.
And what I want to share with you, my team, today about this rock and my emotional state is this rock represents me today and how I'm feeling in this moment, because I'm really craving some outside time. But it's pouring rain, and so I'm feeling a little cooped up inside this cold, dreary day. So the rock really represents my mood today and my state of mind, because it's reminding me of the outside that I can't go out into right now. So it's kind of bumming me out. That's kind of my headspace today. So pick an item in your environment.
Yeah, I got it.
Tell me about why it represents your frame of mind and mood today.
Right. So I have this baseball that I caught. It was a foul ball when I was at a Red Sox game years ago, and I've kept it with me. And I love it because when I smell it, it has this smell that just reminds me of baseball and about being outside on a nice warm summer night. And there's just a lot to it, but it reminds me of better days. It reminds me of youth. And also, I coach baseball at a high school level, so it reminds me of those relationships I made with those players, and how strong and great that was too. So that's a cool activity. Right?
Yeah,
You learn a lot.
Super simple. Yeah. Sorry, you can learn a lot. And then what was the next thing you were going to say, Scott? I talked over you.
No. I just was saying that I think you can learn a lot about me by just what the item is and how I'm describing it. I think there's a lot of you can dig from that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a
So
great
you're just
activity.
creating openings for conversation, right? Like, I mean, I actually made that up about the rock because I didn't, I'm not really feeling bad, but if I were feeling bad, that's probably what would come out of my mouth. And as I was saying it, I became more self-aware about the fact that I am in fact feeling kind of cooped up right now because it's pouring rain and gnarly and nasty outside.
Yep.
So using that, just creating stepping off points in your virtual meetings, whether it's on Teams or WebEx or Zoom or wherever you're having your virtual meetings, creating stepping off points for water cooler conversations is such a critical factor, right? And also, I don't know if you can, no, you can't see it, but on the wall behind me, I've got my flip charts and my office door is closed. So simple things that you can do in your home environment can make a big difference. And it's a fun conversation point to have with a team member to find out, so how have you been setting up your home office? Because that's also information that can give you clues about their communication needs, right? So what's behind this flip chart right here is 4 other flip charts on the wall behind me where I've been ideating because I don't have access to the whiteboard that we keep in our office. So that those are clues. So if you're in a conversation with a team member, maybe ask them for like, so what does your office look like? What's your workspace like today? Tell me what's in your environment. Right? Because there's a lot of information in there. And if you open the conversation, you're opening the conversation is part of that intentionality and commitment to excellence in communication and finding out what people on your team need. Because if we assume that our own responses are other people's responses, then we get what we pay for.
Well, and the other thing that even a simple exercise like that does is it's very different than having an icebreaker, you know, which so often feels like this is the mandatory thing that they told me I needed to do to get everybody to be more playful together before we get down to business. You know, it's an invitation to be more genuine and more vulnerable with each other, to come up and go, you know, blah, blah, blah. I chose this and it's actually making me kind of sad because I'm thinking that I'm not going to be able to do that anytime soon. Right? And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm sad about that too. You know, because that's that the way that we connect to each other is not just, I was on this call I was on yesterday, there was an insistence that no matter what we do for the women's leadership group, that it be happy and positive. And one of the other women that was on the call, and the woman who was driving it has all the best intentions because she's deep in the world of COVID, right? But the other woman on the call said, we need to acknowledge the pain, the loss, the grieving that's going on out there in the world for the things that are real and perceived to have been lost, and then agree that we're going to focus on something else. But otherwise, you're just putting a coat of paint on something you didn't prime, right? And what happens? It just peels off. It looks good in a very short-term, impermanent way, and then it just looks terrible again, right? So if we take the time to do the prime coat, another analogy, right? But we're with the intention that if we connect more fully, we'll have better conversations that are more productive. But we're not doing it in order to have better and more productive conversations. We're doing it because it's the right human thing to do, and as a result, we have those results, right?
Great. Yeah.
It's just an invitation to get more connected to your team. If not now, when?
Yeah. So I know our time's winding down, and I didn't. Are there any last thoughts or messages you'd love to share with the nonprofit community that could be watching this webinar?
I think we shared with you, we have an offer right now for a free 30-minute team energizing session. And anyone can contact us. We have a calendar set up with 30-minute sessions. We really want to infuse this energy, you know, send it out like a spark and have people go, oh, we can be different with each other. It's okay to be happy right now. It's okay to be connected right now, even if they're dispersed. And we want people to take us up on it. The worst case scenario is we would run out of slots and have to extend it beyond, you know, the end of May. But we're happy to do this. These are just catalysts to get people thinking about, we can be different with each other. We can take 5 or 10 or 20 minutes and invest the time in our team so that we're better going forward. Jenny, do you have something?
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that's part of how we want to contribute right now, is just to help teams that choose to be helped. And so we're happy to support people in that way. And then the other thing is, I would encourage people to, well, this will be up on our website shortly, but it's on Eventbrite, is to join the Jam, because the Jam is going to be, it's literally a skill builder. And it's going to be fun, and it's going to be energizing, and it's something that we're starting it next week, and it's going to run for, you know, forever, as far as I'm concerned. It should run forever. And, but it's going to be, it's a quick hit. It's 35 minutes, and it's one topic and one skill builder per week. So it's a great way to connect with other people too. So that we don't have to be at the mercy of anything. We can be really intentional about how we walk through change, and we can become masterful at managing change. So that would be my message. My message for your audience is, would be that, if that's something based on my partner's expression, I think she agrees with me there. So yeah, because it's easy to feel like a victim right now, and we don't have to feel that way.
Great.
Right, and you and Sandra and your group at Harvest have so many resources for nonprofit organizations to be planning and anticipating and budgeting and hiring, and like looking strategically at the structural pieces of their business. One of the structural pieces of your business is your people. And so I guess that would be my parting words is, what are you doing to take care of the people that make your engine run right now? And until they get back into your workspace. Right.
So what's the best way for us to learn about the Jam and get the 30-minute consulting?
You
go to your website?
Can find us on Facebook. Right now, that's the quickest way to get a hold of us. So we are at the Boulder Company on Facebook, and all of our new rollouts will be on our website within the next day or two as well. We're literally mid-launch, yay! But for now, they're definitely on Facebook. So
excellent. And again, I cannot emphasize enough how great it is to work with Jenny and Ellen and the Boulder Company. They really are excellent at what they do, and we really view them as a trusted partner in supporting the nonprofit community. So thank you both for your time today. It was a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Take care. Be safe.
Bye.